As Elena just explained, welcome everyone. I appreciate everyone's time for being here. It's quite busy, lots of things to do before wrapping up for the holidays. This is also our last webinar before we break for Christmas, and we're going to be back in January with 2 more talks. But today I'm super excited to hear about the challenges of building a user-centered open data portal. And today we have as guests the team at Etalab France with Mathilde Hoang and her colleagues. Etalab is the French Prime Minister Task Force for Data Policy. And in the talk, Mathilde and her team are going to tell us about how they manage this tension between the needs of data users and data publishers. Thank you very much for being here, and we're very much looking forward to the talk.
Thank you, Eileen. So I think Mario is supposed to broadcast his screen. I don't know if
I'm about to share it. Let's see.
Perfect. I think it's
fantastic. I think you can see now.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
All right, let's begin then. So hello everyone, I'm Mathilde Hoang and I'm in charge of open data at Etalab. I'm also with Antonin Garonne, who is data editor on the platform data.gouv.fr, and Mario Restuccia, who is the open data officer at Etalab. So, well, first of all, I would like to thank really the European Data Portal team for giving us the opportunity to present our work, and above all, the opportunity to exchange with all the actors on the way we can create data catalogs and data portals that better meet the needs of its users. So briefly, I'm going to present Etalab's missions. So Etalab is part of the Digital State Direction in France and coordinates the design and the implementation of the state's data state strategy. So at Etalab, we open data. We also make them circulate between administration. Of course, we use it to create better public services. And more generally, we try to promote innovation and openness of public actions. So today, what we want to do is to take some time and to understand what are the needs of our different portal users and how we can meet them. To do this, we have tried to identify 3 categories of users, which we will then call personas, and try to, I would say, understand the needs and the way we can address them. So obviously, we cannot perfectly summarize the profile of each user, but we consider it's like a first step to categorize the needs and challenges of everyone. So the first profile identified is the data producer from the central or from the local administration who wants to publish data on the platform. The second one that we have identified is the data reuser who wants to download the data, reuse it, and why not give it some visibility of its own reuse. And of course, the last profile that we have identified is the curious reuser who actually discovered the platform, doesn't really know what is on this platform and what he wants to do and what data he wants to reuse. But we want to address his need and try to support him in his journey on data.gouv.fr. So for each of these personae, we realized over time that the needs and the goals were not the same. And however, we are convinced that it's really necessary to address each of the needs and to respond to all the challenges. So during the 45 minutes we have all together, we will get into the skin of each profile, and we will try to understand the needs and how we can address it on data.gouv.fr. The really big challenge we want to address at the end is to propose and promote a better user-centric platform. So I'm really happy today to give the floor to Mario, who will present the first profile, the producer.
Thank you, Mathilde. Thank you, everyone. So the first step for us is to answer to the producer's needs. So who are the producers in our case? First of all, the public administration in France, which is very much centralized, but also we got a huge body of local administrations, whether regions, department, of communes. they all have a legal obligation of open data by default. Not only public bodies, but also private bodies. Some of them do also have an obligation if they do work in the public sector, if they have a public mission. But also we work with public and private actors that just create data, with individuals, with private companies that want to publish data on our portal. This means that, of course, we have lots of data to work with, and this might be the first issue, let's say. What do we try to do with this? We got one team with multiple skills. We are not supposed to create data on our own. Our mission is to foster, if we want, an open data culture, and to really empower and assist the producers in their mission. We manage, of course, our portal, data.gouv.fr, which I'm going to show you later. And we also provide support, whether it's legal support for the open data laws and the obligations that people might have, and also support with respect to publishing data on the website. This leads us to a few challenges. First of all, as I said, we got lots of data to work with, and this was an issue at the beginning when setting up a portal from scratch. We want to allow everyone to publish data on our portal, and again, this means we got lots of different people, different users with different skills, and we want to make them autonomous into publishing data. We cannot afford to help every single producer because it's not our job. We really want to empower them and let them really be able to do this by themselves. And we want to ensure that data is high quality data, because that's what open data should be for us. How do we do this? First of all, we need an infrastructure to publish data on. And we created UData, which is a customizable and skinnable social platform dedicated to open data. What is UData? Has been created in 2011, by Etalab, and it's of course open source. You can go on our GitHub organization Open Data Team, which has been created in order to show that it's not a project that belongs to us, but it's shared. And that's why other countries are currently also using it. In particular, we got Luxembourg, Serbia, and Portugal so far. But everyone really is welcome to join the open data team of UData and suggest modification or whatnot. And UData is the cornerstone of our platform, data.gouv.fr. This is the pillar of the French public data strategy. Why? Because we got all the data sets here. As I said, there are many, and more than 35,000. And we also got reusers and many different publishers, as I just said. This is an issue, but the infrastructure we built is built around these numbers, so it is completely okay for us to manage this level of data, this amount of data. And of course, this means that we want to help people publish data on our website. We've got three main ways of doing that. It depends on the needs of the users and on the skills. The three ways are, first of all, the direct upload, which is the simple way. You just register as a user, as an organization, and you drag and drop the file, the Excel file on the website. And there it is. It's hosted on our servers. This is the easiest way. And for organizations that do not have much data, or that do not have the tech skills to switch to a more complex method, this is very easy, and our users just love it. We got harvesting method. We got harvesters for DCAT, CCAN, and Open Data Soft portals. They are the most used ones in France. And it's also an easy system because you just set it up once and you forget about it. It's amazing because we got several organizations from local administrations that have their own portals. For example, French regions or French departments, they want to set up their own autonomous portal, but they also want the data to be published on the national portal. And they can do this via harvesting, and it works very good so far. And this is also the way we publish data on the European data portal, but the other way around, of course. We also got APIs, which are very powerful. You can do almost everything, but that's, of course, a bit more complicated to use because you need serious tech skills to use them. But this is not everything we do. Of course, alongside the infrastructure, as I say, we want to really empower the producers and to make them able to create good quality data. So we got support, first of all, and we do it through a well-thought documentation. We got two kinds of guides. The first of all is the guides.etalab.gouv.fr. It's not just technical guides, it's also legal guides, guides about open data, and it's aimed at everyone who wants to just know a bit more about open data in France, about the legal framework, and also about, of course, how to start doing open data, modifying it and using it. They're open source, of course. And then we got the documentation of the portal, which goes a bit more in depth on the technical side with how to set up a harvester or how to use the APIs. Our portal is centered again around quality, because we want open data to be of good quality. So we created a system of metadata. In this case, we got descriptions, tags. We want users to use really open formats. We want the data to be up to date and to be available if it's hosted on a remote server. And so a system checks for all of this, and we encourage really producers to follow all these items. And we use schemas. Schemas are fantastic. They are like a blueprint of how the data should be structured. For example, we tell users that they have to follow a schema for a determinate set of files. We think about one of the schemas we use the most is for charging electrical cars. So we tell producers they have to have a column, for example, with the location of the charger, a column with the power, and that has to be a number. That's kind of an easy example, but if everyone that creates this kind of data follows the schema, and then this is reflected onto the data that is published on the portal, then all the data sets that follow this schema are more or less the same. They're structured the same way. And this allows users to reuse them in an easy way. If you want to know more, you can check our 3 main utilities. The first one is schema.data.gouv.fr, which is where we reference public schemas that are either justified by law or by usage, as we just said, for example, the one of to charge cars, electric cars. We also got Validata, which is a shared project among different actors, open source actors, that is aimed at checking whether data conforms to an existing schema. And CSV.gg, which is the easiest way to create a CSV file, like a table, that follows a schema without the need for crazy technical skills. You just put the data online and you got the file as an output. I will now leave the floor to Antonin, who will talk us about the reusers' needs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. Thank you, everyone. Mario, if you can yes, perfect. So now we're gonna talk a bit about the reusers' needs. First of all, who are the reusers? One very important thing to know about the French portal is that everyone can publish either dataset, but also reusers. This means reusers are administration, but also private companies, data journalists, and many more different kind of stakeholders. We have to this day more than 2,400 reusers referenced on the national portal, including visualization, but also application, blog post, API, a news article, and other kinds of reusers. Another very important point regarding reusers is the legal framework. In France, there is a list of license set by decree, including our own Etalab Open License 2.0, that allow to the reproduction, redistribution, adaptation, and also commercial exploitation of the data made available. There's indeed very few requirement, in fact, on reusers. You have to acknowledge the sources. You have to mention the date the reuse was last updated, and you should not alter the meaning of the data, and of course comply with the GDPR. There is also a specific requirement for a dataset that include personal data, such as addresses, for example. So what we're trying to do with reusers and reusers. First, as Mario explained, we try to display a good quality data, a large catalog with of good quality, but also make it easy to find what you need in this catalog. And with reuses, we try to show what can be done thanks to open data. We try to inspire producers and other reusers, but also measure the impact of open data through the use cases. So now I'll try to show the main challenges we have regarding reuses. First challenges are regarding the publication of reuses. There's, of course, a lot of work on curation and on monitoring of all the reuses that are published, because anyone can publish the reuse, and our time is not infinite. So we have a great deal of work to monitor all the publication, including trying to avoid the publicity or spam as much as possible. And there is also a discoverability challenge, because it's exactly the same with dataset. We try to make the people try to find their way in all the reuses available on the portal. And regarding publishers, there is also challenges. We noticed that the reuses reference on the portal come mostly from civil society, and quite rarely, in fact, from administration and private companies that doesn't necessarily have the reflex to publish their reuses. We also observe that they're not always maintained in time. For example, application. And this is really representing an issue for impact measurement, but also advocacy to convince producers, in particular, of the usefulness and of their data. So let's say a few words about how we try to tackle those challenges. First of all, we work a lot on data discoverability. We use portal features such as tags. We certify organizations that are public service, so that user can recognize who produce what and what they can trust. We also implement a system of recommended datasets to help user find their way. We also, regarding data discoverability, we also work on the curation and editorial of the portal. On the curation on the portal of the home page, for example, where we try to showcase the best data set or the best reuses. We also display inventory pages, which are a limited inventory of data on a specific subjects. For example, data and reuses concerning COVID-19, for example. We also publish content, editorial content. For example, monthly article to showcase the most important publication is going out tonight. The data set and the reuses, but also all the tools developed in the months to help both producers and reusers. And we also publish specific article on data set that we consider as having high potential, or we do actions such as a call to reusers on a specific data set that is not well known, for example. As I said, we also have a great deal of work on the monitoring of the platform, which is done by a daily watch by the team and direct contact with producer and reuser when needed. But we try to simplify and automatize as much as possible the work for us, and we are currently working on a moderation dashboard. Now I will talk a bit about the last persona Mathilde introduced, which is what we call the curious visitors. Those are individuals that are not necessarily our first targets, but they go to the platform to not to get data, but to look for information. And we have to acknowledge this need, because it's pretty important. For example, last November, here you have the list of the the top 11 reuses and visit stat. We had more than 1.6 million of visits on those top 11 reuses, which were concerning mainly COVID-19 and the map for curfew. So we try to ease access to information to those kinds of visitors through the editorial work I mentioned earlier, but also through some portal features such as a preview tool for CSV or geolocalized data to enable just to have a quick view of the dataset. We also work the same way we do with recommended dataset. We work with recommended reuses. This means that on a particular dataset, you would have specific reuses that is highlight. Maybe it's the reuse produced by the product itself, or maybe it's just the reuse that we deem being of good quality. We also develop, as Mathilde said in introduction, dashboard and data visualization to make data discoverable and understandable on specific issues such as the COVID-19 epidemic or other issues, but this is not directly concerning the portal, so I won't be going in depth in that. The last thing we wanted to highlight is the need to build a community between those different stakeholders, especially between the producers and the reusers. Try to foster the exchange between those stakeholders through portal features itself, such as the community resources. On every dataset, there is the possibility to publish your own contribution, your own resources. Can be anything. Most of the time is a new version of the dataset. Maybe you have you add some data from another dataset, or maybe you clean the data. Maybe you geocoded it. So people can just upload their own resources on the dataset and exchange on it. There's also on every dataset discussion modules where the producer and users can exchange on the dataset quality, etc. Of course, this dialogue is fostered also by community animation through events. In particular, we really found it's a great help to foster exchange and promotes both opening and reuses. It enables producer and reusers to exchange about their limits and their needs and their constraints. The last two events we organized, for example, was the DataFin Hackathon on local government financial data, and the renovation hackathon, which was dedicated to energy efficient renovation of buildings. So thank you very much. We're very glad to have shared this little bit about our challenges, and we welcome any question, and we will be very glad to hear if you identify those challenges as well, or maybe you have different challenges that we didn't go in depth in here today, or maybe we didn't even identify, and we are very curious to hear about your experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. And as we said at the beginning, you may ask questions via the chat if you just want to type, and I'm going to read them out loud. And you could also put your hand up if you want to ask the question in person. I have been always fascinated by this approach that you followed, where from the onset you looked at building a community where publishing is quite democratic and inclusive, and I think that's quite extraordinary, and there's various approaches, other approaches to do that. So if you allow me, I'm just going to fire on some questions that I had written down during the presentation. Say, you mentioned several thousand reuses. How do you define a reuse, and how why is it important for you to keep track of them?
That's actually a very good question on the definition of the reuses itself, and it's always a debate if we have in the team on specific reuses, if they look like just advertisement, or do they really showcase the use of open data? And we have a problem here on, that's what I said, because private company don't publish a lot of reuses, and we believe it represents a great deal for open data impact, but I mean, it's way easier to accept reuses and to highlight reuses made by the civil society that are free to use, etc. But I think we also have to focus on other type of reuses that that are made for even for commercial purpose, and we have a certain guideline to decide if reuse is acceptable or not. For example, if it concurrents a public service, it is, if a public service is efficient and reuse just concurrents it, we won't accept it or we won't highlight it, etc. But it's really case by case, I would say.
And are these reuses flagged by the reusers themselves, or do you go look for them, or both?
Most of the time we monitor ourselves. We have on uh, our team chat, we have a notification when there is a new reuse, when another new reuse is published, and when there is a need for discussion, we just try to discuss about it, and we contact the reusers. Sometimes you just need to have a small exchange with the reusers, and maybe they will orient their publication in another way that would fit better the and showcase better the way they use open data, because that's what we want to showcase, is not the reuse themselves, but how they use open data.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see here a related question by Luis. Luis is asking whether you could tell us something about the effort that is required to monitor and moderate reuses and other types of contributions. I mean, ideally, he's asking for person hours or months or something like that. But just a comment, perhaps, on how much effort this is for you.
It's quite important. We don't have anyone that is specifically tasked on this, and we try to work as a team on monitoring. But we also try to work on specific portal features. For example, we have a new features which is coming that can block all publication when we believe there is a period of spamming, for example. And we, as I said, we try to work on this new monitoring dashboard that is not in place as of yet, but we try to automatize and to simplify our work regarding monitoring, which can take quite some time indeed.
So would you say it's sort of like across the team, maybe 10% or 20% of the time, something like that?
I don't. It's hard to me to say.
Yeah.
I would
I
say
know.
5% across the team,
Okay.
something like this.
All right. I
And
mean, fair enough.
you have monitoring and also support in general. So I think
Yeah.
with support you could say okay, let's say 7%. That is pretty approximative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Perfect.
it really depends on the period also, with maybe on some specific events we would have more publication, etc.
Yeah, understood. Say, related to that, so I think in your presentation you have talked about recommended reuses. Say, and you said that sometimes the publishers provide these and sometimes you. So how is that decided? Say how do you decide what a data set could be recommendably used for?
Regarding recommended data sets, there is two methods. There are a method based on metrics. It's pretty much the same principle on when you buy something in Amazon and you have a recommended item. But also we also do customized recommendation from our knowledge of the data. And with reuses, as of now, it's only editorial work. It's only on a few data set that we we know which reuses are the most impactful. For example, on the COVID-19 data, we know that the we know the most common used and accurate reuses, but we don't have automatized this on every data set. It's maybe on the we aim to do it, I guess, on the top 50 or something like this, where we have a really a good knowledge of which reuses it's the most accurate and relevant.
Okay, understood. Say, I think. Sorry, I just keep on asking questions, but I've been waiting for this talk for a long time. So, did I understand correctly that everyone can publish data sets on the portal?
Yeah, everyone. You can register and publish on your own name, or you can create your own organization. Then we do an editorial work, but and anyone can publish reuses.
So, do you have cases where you just say, "Well, no, we're not going to publish this," and how does that make the publishers feel? What is do they come back and re update the data set and publish it again, or how do those interactions go?
Antonin maybe knows more about this. We mostly got spam. It's either good quality data, and then we leave it there, because then we do not make a decision on respect to we don't often open the data set and check. That's something we do not have the resources yet to do. But of course, if it's spam, we just delete it. If it's about commercial, we may have a debate about that, and of course we have policies in place and we are working on more policies, but this happens after someone publishes.
I see.
So it requires quite a work on our side that we have to constantly check what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with Mario. I think I would say it's pretty rare that we have issues such as someone trying to publish personal data, for example. Most of the time is spam that are quite easily identified, and we just delete the organization, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And do you have any sort of feedback mechanism from from users, from the community as well? I think you mentioned this community portal, and I was wondering how widely is it used?
Yes, you have those resources, community resources. You have discussion, but it's also possible to report an anomaly on the data set, or to send a notification to the producer to inform them that there is a problem, or anything like this. I would say it's pretty different from producers. Some producers are very eager to discuss with their users and respond to every single comment, and 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 are really focused on and listen to the community, etc. And some data set are are well established, and there are lots of community resources. And on some datasets, the producer is less present. Sometime when we identify there is a lot of demand on the dataset and the producer don't respond, we can try to contact them directly and try to see what is the issue and how we can help maybe.
Okay, thank you. A question from Eline. How has the team adapted their focus around open data and the portal in the last year? So I think which means in 2020. And second question, can you share expectations and ambitions for the year to come? Want to go
Yes.
first?
So this year it's quite hard to summarize regarding all open data. I would say there is two main focus would be quality over quantity. We have a lot of data now, as Mario said, and we work a lot on schemas and on enabling producers to have to provide better quality data. We worked a lot on data discoverability, as I said, because of this high volume of data set. There is a strong focus as well in Etalab on the circulation of data, which includes open data, but also data that should not go outside the administration and where there is a requirement to access. But it's also a strong focus in Etalab currently. And maybe Mario, you could say a little bit about the
I would.
access policy.
The what? Sorry.
Piloter les
I,
politiques publiques par la donnée.
Yeah, I would say that the most exciting trend that we've been seeing in 2020, at least from my point of view, is the fact that due to the crisis, everyone now cares about data, and the portal has had like an enormous amount of views and reusers, and everyone wants to check the data on coronavirus specifically. But then they start learning about new data set. They want to modify them to create some maps and to show what people can do with data. And this has gained relevance not only among the public, but also among the government, public officials, and the politicians in general. So this huge debate around data that has been fostered by the crisis for us is an opportunity. And this is where we're going now as a team. This is not just related to the portal. Of course, this means that we have to think about new portal features and what to make of this portal and how to foster the community in that sense. But as a team in Etalab, we're also working closely with the government for some projects that are centered around data. So we're helping administrations into developing their own open data strategy, which is more than opening data, because that's the basis for us. And that's something that has been put in place for more or less 10 years. So we want to go further. So we are starting to teach administrations to really use data to make it useful, to show them that it's an investment. That it's not just an exercise of putting data on the platform, but just really doing something with it and using them themselves, giving them to users. And what users, citizens can do with data is really amazing. And that's the next step for us. That's our future.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this. And I think we're almost done with our 45 minutes. So I'd like to thank you all for being here so close to the holidays. I know it's really a busy time for everyone. As Elina was saying at the beginning, we are going to publish the recording and the slides very, very soon. And we will be back on January 12th at the same time with the talk by Axel Polaris. He is a professor at the Business University in Vienna in Austria, and he's going to talk about from open data portals to open data ecosystems and his and his team's experiences and thoughts on how to proceed from monitoring and analyzing open data portals into the future. Thank you very much. We have
Thank you very much for
we
having
have
us.
Twitter account and everything. I wish you all happy holidays despite everything. And hopefully one day we will meet in person. All right. Bye
Thank you
bye.
very much
Much
for
for
this.
having us and for your question.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.